Well, welcome back to the channel. I got home yesterday evening from my 2 month and 2 day extended van life road trip. And with that being said, I'm about to unpack, and I thought I would go through every item that I brought back with me and just talk about it, say if it was good, bad, indifferent, whatever. I figured I would talk about it. Some things would be more interesting than others. But with that being said, I have a backload of videos that will be coming out as I get time to edit them. I've got a bunch of videos from the road, and I fully plan on making more videos as I am back. So that's the plan. So I would like to subscribe to this channel, and there'll be a ton more content coming out, and it'll all be videos from my trip. I got some canoe trips, I got some backpacking trips, just some little day trips in the van, that kind of stuff. It's all coming out, and I'll probably supplement that with some videos kind of like this. Maybe I'll talk about the mistakes I made, things I learned, that kind of stuff. But anyways, with that being said, I'm gonna open up this door of this van, and we're going through every item that I brought back with me from my van trip. So as you can see, it's actually like kind of a chaotic mess in here, but I did kind of find a system that worked for me, but it's not for everybody. But first of all, I had all my clothes on my bed. This is packed up to go, but I basically pushed everything aside, and then I slept down the middle here. Being by myself, it worked out, but it was not an ideal situation. And then I had all my food up here, which is where we'll start this video, but it was not ideal because it looks kind of like trash from the outside. So when you're trying to be stealthy, parked in a neighborhood, and you got a big pile of food on your front seat, not ideal. So that being said, I'm going to pull this food out, and then we are going to go talk about a few things in there, and then we're going to move on, talk about everything else. My dog's whining, he thinks I'm leaving again. So I had this egg carton, never used it, but my food, I actually bought this just outside of Banff. Pasta, this is all just perishable food items, non-perishable food items. I actually started carrying a lot less food than when I started because I had mice issues, which was a real nuisance. So they ate a lot of my food, so I threw it away. But also I was scared to have more, so I streamlined my food situation. But what else got me? Hand sanitizer, absolute must. What do we got? Bagels, peanut butter. Peanut butter is what I used to bait my mouse traps when I had mouse issues. So actually, I wish I started with mouse traps and peanut butter. Greens. What else we got in here? I think that's onions. This is nothing. Rub A535. I definitely needed that. Anyways, that's pretty much about it for food. I will say I did use these bags because a lot of those small town grocery stores did not have bags. It's like rules against selling bags. So I had quite a few of those. We got garbage, paper towel. That was a huge thing, and I'll kind of include that with my kitchen and my food. I use that like with every meal. And then I did buy these wipes to help me with cleaning up stuff too. So all those things, I kind of consider that with food as well. I had one pot and one fry pan. That's a lid. And a fry pan. I feel like the coating's starting to go, so I might just turf that. But I use those things quite a lot. Yeah, so with that being said, I think I'm gonna pull a bunch of this stuff out, and then we can go over it at that point. But I think it would be come out, get organized a bit, and it'll be easier to talk about it. Okay, we got another good pile to talk about. Well, first I'll just say it kind of sat here, some stuff from my center console area. It was just stuff that was always on hand, which kind of changed throughout the trip. But with that being said, we'll go through it. Like, first of all, this is a collapsible backpack that folds up into nothing. I have a bear bell, which I like. I think they work, but some other people would not agree, so that's up to you. But this little backpack was key. I used it like literally almost every day. You can keep things in like rain gear, which is an absolute necessity. I got a toque in here. We only need that for the end here. Obviously camera gear, that kind of stuff. What else we got here? TP. Yeah, so that's definitely backpack. I got my mini grill here. I showed that in one of my videos of the gear that I shrunk down. Instead of having a barbecue, I just had this flat top grill. I use this thing quite a bit. It was definitely worth me bringing. It would be nice to have a barbecue. Like, I cooked these little paninis quite a bit, and there was no lid, so I like rigged something up with like foil, but it was not that effective. So that would be a thing. You might want to take a barbecue and just suffer the space penalty. As far as shoes, these bad boys, I wore so much, but I got hiking shoes, casual shoes, and flip-flops. I used every shoe that I brought. I used obviously I used these slipper shoes the most, but I used my flip-flops quite a bit. They were not that effective, but I do use them just because they're so easy to put on. Jug of water. This is a beach blanket that has like waterproofing on the bottom, and it folds up. I literally never folded it up, but that was what I used my stretches on. That was worth bringing. I got some souvenir stuff here. All these information books. At the beginning, when I was in the national parks, I like lived on those books. Like, you got one everywhere you went, and they gave you all the information and like where to figure out what you're doing. Talked about the hikes. Those things were mint. Notebook, worth having. Bike pump, worth having. And actually, since we're talking bike pump, we'll go over to the bike. Obviously, it's absolutely worth having a bike. I use this thing quite a bit as a means just to see the town, but also like some of the rail trails I rode was like, that was what I was gonna do, to go see the area proper, put good distance in. Saddlebags, totally worth it. And since we're also talking about accessories, obviously the canoe, mandatory. It's kind of a pain to have a huge boat on your roof at all times. But with that being said, absolutely worth it. This trip, I had a lot of canoe trips. So it was awesome. Totally worth having. And that also leads to some other things that I had in the van that we'll go through as we go. But totally worth having the bike, totally worth having the canoe. If not a canoe, you should probably have like stand-up paddleboard or an inflatable kayak or something. But anyways, what else we got? A flashlight, umbrella. I don't know if I use this umbrella, but it's sweet to like cook under an umbrella if you don't want to put up all your tarp. I went to a hot spring, sit in a hot spring with an umbrella, worth having. Tablet, drone, video stuff, cables, water bottles. I used these water bottles for like 2-3 weeks and then moved on to the next water bottle so they didn't get super dirty. Bear spray, toiletries. Oh, this is a sweet zippered bag. Whatever. It's a zippered bag I got from the cannabis store in Jasper. Fan. Battery operated, rechargeable. Absolutely a necessity in the summer. This thing was mint. I'm so glad I had it. Wet wipes, absolute necessity. Toilet or dishes. One thing I did, I packed only 1 fork and 1 spoon, which was like probably a mistake. It would have been nice to have a couple, just in case I like misplaced one or one fell out of my bag. Like, it's literally, can easily fall out of your bag, kind of get lost in the van somewhere. So it would have been nice to have a couple of those. But with that being said, actually I'll say more about this. Cutting board, knife, but I also had flippers and tongs and flippers, which was something I used all the time. The tongs I even used to clean out my mouse traps when I did not want to touch those later. So 100% worth having. What do I want to say here? Let's go. Gee, maybe I'll empty this full and then we'll talk about everything. Okay, so first of all, yeah, this collapsible container. Ooh. Anyways, at no point did I ever collapse it, so that was probably unnecessary. But either way, we got gas, rope, definitely necessity. We got tent pegs, mosquito repellent. It's basically like a thermocell, but actually I should probably make a video on this stuff later. But Flex Tail super light mosquito repellent smell thingies, another bear spray, bike glue, tin foil or aluminum foil. Definitely worth having. I didn't start with this, but I found myself, I actually literally borrowed it off my campsite neighbor, who ended up being an OnlyFans model, so it's worth starting a conversation anyways. But aluminum foil was very handy, along with paper towel. Those are like two of the things I use like the most while cooking. Very essential gadgets, if you call it that, to have. TP, compass, never used. Battery packs, I had multiple battery packs. I carried 3 of them with me. Obviously I got all my cameras and all that jazz, but I had 3 battery packs that were all in different states of charging. Kind of unnecessary having so many, but yeah, it's obviously worth having battery packs because we live in an electrified world. This I used one time for a chai latte, probably unnecessary. Again, I had another mug. I used this a couple times. I did not go to BCIT. PB blasters, part of my tools. All my tools I did not use because I just did not use them. And this I actually had a major, it got pressed down, sprayed out all over the van, and it had the scent of PB blaster, which is not good for the last few days of my trip, which was kind of a bummer. But if I needed it, I would have been absolutely thankful that I had. What else we got in here? Hatchet. I used it a couple times. I started with a fire band, but I did move out of the fire band, and it's good to have a good hatchet. This is my little lantern. Goes on a fuel canister. I use this quite a bit. I liked having it, honestly. It started with like, I barely used it, but eventually as the trip went on, nights started to get a little bit longer, so I used it. I carried that with me a lot. More hand sanitizer, camera jobs, my spoon. This is my bubble wrap or Reflectix pouch where I put my freeze-dried meals and a long spoon. And I did a bunch of like backpacking and canoeing on this trip, but also there was a couple nights where I was just kind of stuck up in the van, and it was nice to have those freeze-dried meals on hand. Super easy, no mess. That's what that's for. Fuel can, TP hand warmers. This is my big old stabbing knife. That's my bear protection. Always have a good knife. Always have a good knife. Vegetable peeler. I don't know if I use that, but I had it with me just in case. This is my pot and stove for when I went backpacking. That's my stove. I got good use out of this thing with the freeze-dried meals, because otherwise that pot is way too small to do anything other than rehydrate those freeze-dried meals. Can opener, if you've ever been in a camping situation where you had like a can of ravioli or something, no can opener, happens all the time. It's good to have a can opener. These I'll probably just leave in the van forever. Another light, flashlight, slash lantern. I do not know if I used that, but I did have another lantern. Inner tube, this is actually flat. Obviously bring spare inner tubes with the bike pump, tools. I had all that stuff for my bike. These are Ziploc bags. I used a lot of Ziploc bags. These big ones, they're good for everything. They use what I used as my garbage, because literally the one time I did not use a Ziploc as a garbage bag in my van, I got mice in the van. Whether this would have prevented it, probably not anyways, but then from then on it was always Ziplocs. It's good for leftovers. I just highly recommend having Ziplocs at all times. Sunscreen, fuel for the stove. This was a little water bottle. It also had markings, and that's what I used as a measuring cup. I would have probably preferred a real measuring cup. More sunscreen, more sunscreen. I did not actually use a lot of sunscreen. I kind of just got tanned and burnt my face. I just did not look at myself, so it did not matter. What's that? That's a survival bracelet, did not use. Another headlamp. This one's super bright. Light cleaning products. More rope. These are my binoculars. The view's crazy. Yeah, I used those quite a bit, but I could have used them more. So that was definitely worth bringing. That was an Amazon Prime purchase. And that is my mosquito repellent. Plugs into an external battery. Microphone for recording audio on my videos. More fuel canisters. I think I'll leave those out. And these are the pads for this. I packed a ton of these, and I barely used that thing. And also, I think this is the final thing from that thing. This is my toaster. This pops up. It fits on a stove, my 2-burner stove, which I guess that'll be what we look at next. Sits on my stove. I cook bagels on here mostly, but I toasted up my bagels, my buns for my burgers, whatever. I actually highly recommend that. That was super simple and effective. And at one point I had a friend that met me in my campsite, and they were very impressed that I could cook them toast on my toaster out in the woods. So highly recommend that. I've had that thing forever, but they're probably cheap. Yeah, that was definitely worthwhile. But yeah, I'm gonna go in there. Well, I guess we'll talk about my stove next, and then we'll move on and keep going. I'm sweating. I'm talking too fast, too much. Did I say bear spray already? Literally, as I was gone, there was 2 people that got killed in Banff National Park. I don't really know exactly where, but I was in Banff. Had bear spray at all times. You do not want to mess around when it comes to bears. Oh, use some of this water actually. Okay, since I was talking about my stove, this is my 2-burner stove that fits into that shelf. And since we're talking about that shelf, we'll pull this bin out. And this is my fridge. Totally worth having the fridge over a cooler. Not having to worry about ice was tremendous, especially like in those small towns. I do not know if ice was or was not available, but I have doubts because there was not a lot of things available at some of these crappy towns. So totally worth the effort and the investment in a fridge. Obviously have a fire extinguisher all times. Let's pull this bad boy out. Then we will go through it over here. Oh, floor mat. Honestly, this thing was scrumpled up in a ball most of the time. I thought it would be a good idea, but since it was very dry, unnecessary. Here we go. Stove. That was my Reflectix partition that separates the front from the back for stealth mode. Also, in my head, it keeps the mice in the front instead of in the back where I am, if they happen to come in, which they did, like I said. I had mice on this trip. It was nice to be able to keep them separate, or at least for me to think they're separate. Anyways, what more do we got here? That's my 6-pack cooler. I do not think I used that. I did use this LED lantern. It is, that was definitely a necessity. Use it all the time. Water bottle, this one specifically for my bike. Bucket toilet. Oh. This is my bailing bucket and my sponge for my canoe. I only use this bucket toilet 2 times. On the final day, I was camping by no facilities, so I was like, I'll just use that. And then also one day I had, I guess I'll say a late night emergency in Radium Hot Springs after eating a Michigan dog. Could have been the ice cream too. But either way, I woke up at like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and it was like, I gotta go poop now. And having this bucket was a huge lifesaver in that moment. It made it 100% worth it, even though it is kind of big and cumbersome. If you use it once, it was worth having. This is a fold-up table. I use this more than I used my full-size table, but I probably could have lived without either. Although, if you're gonna take a table, take a fold-up table. You could probably skip the big one. This is my first aid kit. Always good to have a big first aid kit. I think I used the burn cream. I used the Tums. I used Tylenol. I used Q-tips. I did not use the condoms, although I wish I had. It's my 2-burner stove. Woods. Worked great. The electric start is temperamental, but I always have a lighter with me in my little orange bag. I had this with me at all times. This is my life. I have my battery chargers for my GoPro, my 360 camera. I had a headlamp in there, wallet, doob tube, weatherproof lighter, headphones, my Bear noise, never used. My Zoleo, this thing to me, absolutely key. There's so many places I went that did not have cell reception and could have been unsafe, but I have my Zoleo, so I always had the opportunity to call for SOS or text anybody in the world at any time, whether I have cell service or not. I highly recommend, especially traveling solo. Pocket ashtray. I got a strap to hold my glasses on tight if I decide to do anything crazy. And there we go, lighter. Yeah, extra battery. It's ruined now. That was that, but I always had that in my dry bag. And like I said, that was my absolute life. At all times, this thing, I had to know where it was. Had my keys in there. It could not be in the vehicle if it had my keys in there. This was, my, like I said, my life. I had, at all times, always, ooh, that guy's brakes are toast. And now with that being said, we'll dip into this. This was the box right under my stove. So it has like related stuff in there. This actually started out with more fuel in here, but as I went through stuff, I got rid of it and put it in. Anyways, I just got rid of it. But this is all my map books. I bought every back road map book for BC. These were very handy, not necessarily for navigating, but when I was just sitting around at the table trying to figure out where I was gonna like go to on my trip, I looked at these quite a lot to entertain myself. These are water shoes, aggressive water shoes. Use these a lot. I probably should have brought these and not flip-flops for all my stuff, but the flip-flops are just so easy to use. Dry bags. Dry bag. This dry bag smells like sunscreen because my sunscreen exploded in there. My spray-on sunscreen. It's part of my... This is my throw bag. Anyways, dry bags. It's good to have extras just in case your sunscreen explodes. Water bottle. Again, it has markings on there, which I used. But that was for my hiking. Again, I had a lot of these fuels. I think I went through about six of those big cans. Tarp, never used. That's an extra tarp, actually. But I had multiple. That's an emergency poncho. Dry bag. Dry bag. This is a giant shackle. That's my souvenir from my canoe trip on Revelstoke Lake. I found this and maybe potentially stole it. Speaker, Bluetooth. I do not recall ever using it, but I guess it would. Okay, the camera died. I don't know exactly where I was. But this is an outdoor solar shower. I used it one time. It was mediocre, but that time I used it, I was in desperate need of a shower and it felt good. This is an emergency backup stove. Shovel. Never used. I would probably regret bringing that. Air pump. Never used. Fire starters, use some. Rope. I have had so many cans of gas. This is like backcountry gas. I brought way too many of those. I could have got by with like 3 cans. I'm not even sure I used that much. And I have way too many extra cans. And the big green cans, I ended up buying an emergency extra. That's what I should have packed more of. That was a mistake. More rope, bag, crib, never played. Life straw, worth having. Radios. I used these once. The one time I went with my sister, we were on radio contact. Worth having. That's a towel. This is going to be my emergency use towel because I literally used 2 towels the whole time, or 2.5 towels the whole time. And that was my emergency backup. Flint. This shovel I did use when I went canoeing. And that's pretty much that. That's garbage. So we'll go on to the next bin. Oh. This is my camera bag and a salt bag. This had all my stuff in there. At one point I was more organized, but this is where I had put stuff that I used, like my tent, that at some point I switched to not using my tent when I was more in my van versus when I was canoeing. My tent held up well. This is like my toiletries I take on when I went backpacking or canoeing, like overnight. Bug spray, wet wipes, mosquito net that actually got soaked in bug spray, or it got soaked in sunscreen, anti-chafing thing, toothbrush, empty fuel can, water filter. This is an MSR. This thing was good for my backpacking stuff, but also it was nice to have in the van because you could just fill up instead of relying on having a tap. At one time, one of the campsites had tap that said boil water, so I filtered it. So that was worth having, even if you're just in the van. This is a backup pair of water shoes. Unnecessary. Mattress. Worked good. This is my filter bottle for when I'm canoeing. You dip in the water. I like that. This is that's my original towel. It's a pack towel. This thing I used for a month. It smells now, but it was useful. Sewing kit, never used it, worth having. Goggles, I don't really know why I brought them. I can't tell you what's in there. These are some schematics from my van, just in case it broke down, which it did not. I got toque and gloves. I packed 2 pairs of toques and gloves for emergency situation. That's a tent light that is dead. That's a camera tripod that I never used. Rope. These are lights for like on my canopy. I used those one time. Definitely unnecessary having. Collapsible solar panel. I used this to refill my batteries while I was canoeing. Hydration bag, that's for backpacking. Empty fuel. This is my podcasting equipment that I did not use. And this was the most ridiculous thing that I packed. Actually, maybe the second most ridiculous thing, considering its size. But these are my power chains that I packed just in case I needed to. I don't know why I packed it. Probably unnecessary. What do we want to do here? Okay. Let's move to here. 2 more dry bags. I use those. This is my ladder to get at my canoe. Could have used a stool or something, which would have been probably smaller. This is a waterproof dry bag style backpack. I like that. And this is probably the most ridiculous thing I packed. This is a 4-foot by 6-foot fake grass mat that I thought would be nice to put down by my door, but I absolutely never used it, never considered using it. That was an absolute waste of space, and in hindsight, of course it was. This is my chair. I took that canoeing. I used it. These are my 2 chairs. One of these is actually broken. It's still usable, but it's broken. So that's why it's good to have 2. This was my fold-up picnic table that I did not use. Probably a mistake, unnecessary to have, but if I did use it, and I could have used it, but it was just like, was it really worth the effort? And I just dealt with not using it, but this thing was very useful. This is my 8x8 shelter from Walmart. Instead of using an awning or a tarp, if you have a pop-up shelter, it just pops up. They're relatively cheap. I highly recommend that. I got an 8x8. I have an 8x10, no, a 10x10, which my sister used when she met me on this vacation. So all my pop-up canopies were worth it, totally worth having. And then over here, we got a few things that are just always in the van. Tools, a little emergency roadside kit, and that's a compressor to refill my tires. So with that being said, we are going to go back into here. This is my other towel that I used for a month. I think we're going to go into here and we'll go into this box and we'll talk about this box, because this was one of the bigger mistakes I made, was this box. But first we'll talk about what's in there now, and then I'll talk about what was in there later. I had to take a breath, and then we'll do it. Before we get to that cabinet, I'll talk about some other things I always have in the van. This is a tire deflator. This is a tire repair kit, which is basically essential to go with my compressor. That can go over there. That was just a towel. I always have some emergency fire starters in here. And basically I have these clips are usually in there. But yeah, most importantly this and this, which leads me into talking about what's in this cabinet. So, talking about this bin. Right now, I have a little bit of food stuff that was in sealed containers, some Ziplocs, and some, what do I want to say here? Cans, and like sealed drink crystals. Also, my window cover. But other than that, I have in there is fluids for my vehicle. I got coolant, I got brake fluid, I got all the fluids. I got oil, which I did need to top up my oil about halfway through this trip, so it's always good to have fluids. That's the only one I used. But then I also have more tools in there and recovery gear. I have toe straps and shackles and extra ratchet straps, so I always have that stuff in here. So that was what's in here now, but originally this was a food cabinet, and I had a ton of food just packed up in here, and that was a big mistake because I did get mice in here multiple times, and they ran roughshod over my food in this container. They ate a ton of it. Honestly, they ate half my food supply. It ate into it. Probably because that was early in the trip, so it was full of food. And in hindsight, I should have had all my food in like impenetrable containers, and also I could have done with less food. I wanted to be prepared for my whole trip to have food, but in hindsight I wasn't, because it got eaten. I should have had that stuff stuffed in Rubbermaids or whatever. And then also, because this is right by my bed, the fact that there was a mouse in there was like right there. There's no avoiding it. I could hear them, and it was super creepy. And if I had food stashed somewhere else in my van, then the mice would have been there. So that led eventually to me I just put it in my front seat, like you saw earlier. And then at least if I had mice eating my food, it was up here, and I could sort of hide back here, was my theory. Either way, mice in the van is gross. Need to find out how to prevent them from getting in. Also, I do have mouse traps now. Highly recommend everyone travel with mouse traps. I caught 3 mice in my traps, but also I had other mice in here that either managed to escape or just came and left. Yeah, disgusting. So carry mouse traps, safety pack your food. Yeah, so with that being said, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna talk about all these clothes on my bed so I can fold up this bed. And I will say this bed has a 4-inch thick mattress, which on top of a 3/4-inch plywood like frame, and it was not the most comfortable. In hindsight, I wish I had a 6-inch thick mattress. I was more concerned about the height here, but sitting on it, I probably would compress it like equally. So this height, how much height am I really gaining? And a little bit of extra comfort would have went a long way in this. So that being said, I'm gonna pull this out, I'm gonna pull my pillows out, and then we'll talk about all the clothes that are left in here. But we are getting pretty close to being over everything that's been in this van. So yeah, I'm gonna hurry up, get this out, and then we can keep talking, keep rambling. Okay, so I got rid of my bed. I'm just sitting on this platform here, and I'm gonna talk about all my clothes, and then I guess there's a few other things in here. Bike helmet, definitely have a bike helmet. Sometimes don't ride with the helmet, but you should always ride with the helmet, especially if you're on the road or do anything crazy. I got my backpack here. This is a Gregory Stout 70. I got a good deal on this, I think, and it serves me well. This is the first and only time I've ever used this backpack. It was for 5 days on the Tonkin Valley, which a video will come out later. But it served me well. Substantially lighter than my other pack, and I could use that as a day pack, just underload it if I had to. But like I said, I had that little foldable backpack that I used every other time other than when I was backpacking, but I could have used that. And then we got clothes here. Honestly, I packed too much clothes, but not enough to really, I guess there's a few things I could nitpick myself about, but overall I packed pretty well. I don't feel bad for my choices, is what I should say. That being said, I did bring 3 pairs of those pants, which are like what I used to wear to work. They're like outdoor, flexible, like sort of quick dry pants. They're just every use pants. And I brought 3 pairs of those, but I could have got by with, well, I'll say 2, because one did get dirty when I was hiking. This is my long sleeve hoodie.
Sarge Inc. branded. One day I'll get these in a store. But that, I wore that all the time. It was like thin, but also relatively warm, but not too warm, so I could wear it all the time. I got gloves. This is a half towel. It's not like a full beach towel, so it doesn't like, it was like I said, a half towel. I was used when I was kind of wet or if I was trying to go lightweight. I'd rather have a full-size towel, but I was left with that towel. Sweatpants, shorts. I wore these shorts like every day for a month. And then I had another pair, that was good, that were kind of only for like nice occasions. Like I was walking around in Jasper in shorts, so I was like in the town, I was clean. That's what these good pair of shorts for. And the other one I just wear dirty all the time, doesn't matter. That was the other glove. Sock, underwear. We'll talk more about socks and underwear as we go. What is this? Long sleeve shirt with a hood. I honestly didn't wear this, but I ended up buying a shirt almost just like this at the Walmart in Nelson for $20. So I don't really know why I didn't wear that, but anyways, I got multiple long sleeves here. Oh, there you go. It's a long sleeve mixed with a short sleeve t-shirt. So that's what I did. I just layer up. I did not pack anything super warm, which does lead me to that, but that's just a hood. This is my fleece that I had to buy at Mount Robson Provincial Park. It was a relatively good deal, so it was worth it. But that was my fleece to be warm because I did not pack like a proper warm jacket. I have this other like fake, oh man, what is it? This thing. It's like another fleece thingy that's kind of like, I don't even know. It's sort of water resistant to a certain degree. But it's like thin and it was not warm, nor that comfortable. So I had to buy like a good fleece, which I should have just packed something proper from the start. These are waterproof sweatpants, which I don't think I ever used, but I like those pants as a whole. What do we got? Sleeveless tee. I'm keeping this stuff in a pile so I can sort of make a total of what I had. That's t-shirt, sleeveless, socks, t-shirt, never wore that. That's up there. That's another pair of shorts. These are kind of like sweatpants shorts. Very comfortable. I did not utilize those enough. There's t-shirt, sweatpants. These are rain pants. You gotta have a rain jacket and rain pants. Definitely use. This is my sleeping bag. This is an old crappy sleeping bag that I've had around the house. It was plenty warm enough, except for like the coldest few nights, which I had in Jasper, and then later in the season, at the very beginning of October, it was touching freezing at night, and I had to sleep in sweatpants and a long sleeve shirt, which is fine. I also did have my backpacking sleeping bag, which would have been warm enough if I needed it. I thought I had it in here, but I did have my mattress up in here. I used it as like a pillow, like an extra headrest when I was just chilling. Swim trunks. I brought 2 pairs of swim trunks and 2 beach shirts. I only wore those one time, and that was just because the beach shirts was because I was like, I gotta use everything in here, so I wore one. This was a hoodie, a fashionable hoodie. I wore that a couple times. Long sleeve, sleeveless. That's my second pair of swim trunks. It's good to have 2 in case one's wet and then you want to like dip in the other one. Or if you were like, I went in a lake in the daytime and then at night I went to like a hot springs pool, which was like more civilized. So I didn't want to wear the lake water wet ones into there if I could avoid it. T-shirt. These smell gross, but these are the shorts that I slept in almost every night. I probably should have brought more than one of those, but I only had one, so that's what we do. We got fashionable t-shirts here that I only wore a couple times, but they're just like regular old cotton shirts. I got a long sleeve that I could have wore out on the town. More boxers, t-shirt. Oh, what's this one? That's my Run SRG. So I wore this thing 5 days backpacking, but it didn't even smell that bad. So I could keep wearing it. And then I did wear it because I was like comfortable in it. But that shows you, like, no matter how crazy you get, this stuff's not that bad. And when you're by yourself, you can wear anything, like it, and then you just dress fancy if you want to go out on the town. But you could get away with very minimal clothes, way less than I have in here. That's another pair of pants. That's the pants I was talking about earlier. This is a long sleeve, like long john style shirt. I wore that a couple times. Definitely worth it. Once I bought my fleece, it became a little less important. This was dumb. I packed 4 hats, and I packed 3 hats, bought this hat, and I barely wore my hats. I don't know why I packed so many to start. There's the other one. It's the Abbotsford Shield. That's where I'm from. Shout out to Abbotsford. That was my extra blanket for myself if I ever needed to share something with a stranger that was cold, or sit by the fire with a blanket on. That's another dry bag. This is where I had all my clothes stored until I went full hectic mode. Shirts, underwear. Okay, so let's do some math here. We got 2 pairs of like athletic shorts, which I probably could have slept in too. I have 3, 4, I brought 5 pairs of sweatpants, which is what I wore most of the time when I was wearing pants. Could have cut down on that. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 like athletic style, 7 because I took one off yesterday. 7 like athletic style shirts. 2 sleeveless shirts that were like athletic style. What's that? I think this is like now 4 to 5 like casual t-shirts. I brought 10 pairs of boxers, and then a couple pair of like casual boxers, like cotton ones. But these, I brought 10 pairs of like quick dry boxers, and that was plenty enough for me. And then I brought like 6, 7 pairs of socks that were like, these are good Dickies brand socks. And then a few more like casual ankle socks. I probably could have packed more socks. That's when I'll call it a regret. I wish I had a few more pairs of socks. But one thing I do have up here, first of all, those are pee bottles. I loved having the pee bottles. You got 4 1-liter bottles that you can use the bathroom in here. And then in here, I'm not even going to open up this bag right now. This is like my retired pairs of socks and underwear. So I went backpacking for 5 days, wore the same pair of underwear the whole time, same pair of socks the whole time. Those came right off me into this bag to never be seen again. Yeah, I did not want to do laundry on this trip, so I had to keep that stuff separate because some of this other stuff is in my pile. Is it clean? Is it not clean? It's kind of both. But the stuff I really had to retire, that went straight up into that bag. I got a big old jug of water. This is my emergency water. I dipped into that a few times when my little jug was clear. I don't know if I finished. I have 5 long sleeve shirts. Plus I had 2 like long sleeve thin hoodies along with my other hoodies. I did not wear a couple of those, so I could have had less. But with that being said, like I said, I don't really regret any of my clothing choices. Okay, we're in the final stretch here. I got this little pile here, and then we got a couple things up here that we should talk about. Down here, this is my power. That's like one of the final things I did to get prepared for this. I did not plug anything into here at any point in time. I packed my beard trimmer and, well, frankly, my ball trimmer. I packed my Manscaped, but I didn't have to charge anything. So, you know, unnecessary. You can live without power. Other than like I did have my USB power, and everything is USB rechargeable, so I did not need that power. That was unnecessary. But let's go through this pile here. Couple more pairs of socks. These are my proper hiking shoes. They're Helly Hansen. They're waterproof. Those were what I used when I went backpacking. They were definitely worth it. Way better than just having my shoes or my hiking shoes. I don't think I ever used this. This is my basket grill for cooking on the fire. But with that being said, we had a fire ban on for a lot. I use this a lot in my regular life camping, but because there was a fire ban, I just did not plan to use it, so I didn't use it. I cooked on whatever reason, or whatever thing I used. This is my yoke for carrying my canoe. I used that. That was mandatory gear, whether I liked it or not. That's a tire iron, jack. This is my tarp, never used. Could have. This is more tools. That's a mount for my phone. Duct tape, some cleaners. I had to buy cleaners when I got my mouse problem. I probably should have started with them though. This is my fire pit. Honestly, kind of unnecessary having that fire pit. I used it a couple times, but I kind of thought it was like just using it for the sake of using it. I was able to have a few real fires, and then just because it was bright for so late, I just did not have the need to sit around by a fire, especially being by myself. It's like I could just retreat in here if it was cold and dark. Okay. That's another pouch for my bike. I don't remember if I used that. I packed a camo inflatable tube for floating on a river or a lake, which I never used. So that was probably unnecessary. Deep down, I am a little bit scared that I get to the bottom of this, I'm going to find a mouse. This is an outbound thing that goes on that little grill. I never used that, so that was kind of a waste of effort bringing that. I got my paddles here. This one, I had to tape up. I probably should have checked that before I left. Some pry bars. Trekking poles. That was a necessity on my hike. My backpack trip. This was my solar panel. I did not use it. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. It's kind of a pain to have, but I also had very poor access because these back doors stopped working. So it was a pain. I had to get everything out to get at that. So it was not going to happen. So when I did need it, I just decided that I was not going to use it. I got a foldable saw. I never used it, but it's good in case of like self-rescue. Tree falls down over the road, blocks you, you can cut it, or making firewood. But again, I did not make that much firewood. But that thing's small. It's one of those things that's always in the van. These are more tools. These are more information books, which I said, like, I use those a lot just to learn about. It seemed kind of wasteful to get paper maps all the time, but definitely useful. And then we got one more barrel. I'll talk about it more in a second. But then let's go up front here. Okay, we're up in the front seat. First of all, sunglasses. They're broken. This is my emergency sunglasses, which are sunglasses, but also glasses. So these are actually my emergency glasses and my third backup sunglasses. But I had to use them as sunglasses because we get down here past the canoe cart, which I did not use, but I planned on using it. That was kind of like a decide on the fly that I didn't use it on the trip that I ended up not going. I changed the plans. So I needed it until I didn't, and it was unnecessary. These are more reusable bags. I have a jar of pickles that I forgot buying. That's a broom. And here we go. Oh, this is my extra lenses for that. I think I have something down here. That's a can. It was kind of a pain to recycle on the road, but I could not bring myself to throw all my cans in the garbage, so that's another dry bag with cable. Rest of my cart. Here we go. A couple things down here. Okay, we had another water bottle. We had bug spray, sunscreen, always accessible. More bags, unless I already counted that. This is an axe. It's good to have a big axe. I loaned that actually to a couple people that only had hatchets. And it's like, hey, if you're going camping, you need an axe. So bring a full-size axe. That's Fisker's quality axe. Highly recommend. And this is my original emergency sunglasses, which if you look, do not fit very well because they actually melted. This is completely, this got melted and the frames turned to like jelly. They've solidified now, but that was from spray-on sunscreen. Totally warped my backup sunglasses and even the case. Totally ruined it. So that was a bummer, but it made it feel important to have, like I said, extras, because you never know. And I need glasses, so I need to have prescription sunglasses. If I do not have them, it's just bad news. My radio adapter, charging cable. What do I have in here? Fuses, napkins, insurance, nothing good in there. Oh, my national park pass. This was key. I think you have to use it 7 times to make it worthwhile to buy it. It's like a year-long pass, and I way overused that. I used it plenty of times. Totally worth paying for it. I got my Jerry's Rangers souvenir. I think that is now everything up. Oh no, it's not everything. I had to buy hair ties so I could put my hair in a man bun so I could roll with the windows down, otherwise it was too hectic. But yeah, that is everything up here. So with that being said, we're gonna go through that final barrel and then that'll be it. That's it, the end of this episode. But quickly, let's go grab that barrel and let's talk about it. Okay, here we go. We're gonna finish up strong. This is my barrel for canoeing. Got my canoe hat, my life jacket. This is stuff that I was not using unless I was canoeing, so it went in this barrel so I could stuff it to the back. Empty propane. There we got. That's I don't know what it is. It's this Backpackers bocce. Never used it. This is my sleeping bag. Obviously I used it. There's also a sleeping bag liner in here, so I could make, well, whatever. I could be warm at any point in time, whether I'm camping in the van. That's a hammock, never used, unnecessary. This is a map that, it's got a map of the Bowen Lakes, I think, in here, which I know it doesn't. It has a North Coast Trail. I never used this, but if I did do Bowen like I had intended, it would have been useful. That was some tea bags. And then these, I think that's all that's left in here, is all that's left in here is these freeze-dried meals. I bought 29 of the dinners to go on this trip. And then I bought, what is it? Breakfasts. I think I bought 8, maybe 10 breakfasts. Okay, camera died at some point, but I was saying I have 29 dinners and I had like 8 or 10 of these meals. These were my absolute favorite, the breakfasts. These were good too. That being said, I got more tea that I never used. And this is the final item in the van. That is a hydration bag. Holds 4 liters of water. That was useful, take it on the hike. But also it's just a big non-collapsible, or a collapsible bottle instead of using a big giant jug. So good for space savings. And with that being said, that is actually everything that was in my van. Hard to believe that even fit, but that is everything in my van. I don't really know what else to say. I'll be back with scheduled programming next week. We'll have video of continue on of my trip. But yeah, with that being said, that's the end of this video. Peace.